First and foremost, I just want to say thank you for watching this video. Don't forget to click that like and subscribe button. It really helps me out. I'm going to be talking about sign making in this video, and this is going to be an introductory to the tools you're going to need for the next videos I'll be doing. If you have any questions or comments, put them down below. I'm also going to include some links to some of the things you'll see, so that way you can purchase them on your own. I'll even get a little kickback. It'll help out the channel, so thank you. We're also going to talk about the tools we're going to use to accomplish it, the software we're going to use to create, and the materials we're going to use to manifest it. So let's get started. Alright, these are the books I will be using throughout this series. Take them in. If you can, purchase them. I'll put links down below. These books are going to be a huge help in growing from beginner to intermediate to maybe even master levels. So definitely check out these books. I'll put the links down below. What we have here is How to Make Wood Signs by Kendra Chura. We have Mastering Layout on the Art of Eye Appeal. It's by Mike Stevens. And the main book we'll probably be working out of most is Making Wood Signs by Patrick Spielman. Now let's talk about the tools. The tools we'll be using are the bandsaw, the scroll saw, parallel clamps, screw clamps, belt sanders, DA sander, drill press, miter springs, planer, miter saw, and of course table saw. We're going to need a flat surface to build our signs on. You can manage by getting a piece of MDF and using it, but it won't stay flat forever unless you have it screwed to a pretty stable base. Let's head over to the scroll saw. This is my 1948 Delta scroll saw. I found it on Facebook Marketplace. You can usually find a pretty good scroll saw online if you just wait. Look on Facebook Marketplace or eBay. Just give it some time. Usually one will pop up, usually with the price range of $150 to $300. The blades that I use are Flying Dutchman. There's also some hacksaw blades that are cut up by the previous owner. You can always have this as an option, or cut up a bandsaw blade if you got to get a pretty deep depth. Most blades come 5.5. Typically, the finer the teeth, the better the cut. On a bandsaw, it's 14 TPI that I typically use. So here, anything above 14 TPI should give you a pretty clean cut. Anything below that is going to be designated for more hardwoods. If you're having a hard time finding a vintage scroll saw or you don't want one, there's always the Pegas, which is a great buy. A lot of people really love it. It has a quick load and unload for the scroll saw blade. Also, if you really just want to get started, a Dewalt is a common scroll saw, but they tend to not last very long, just so you know. Okay, we're going to go through the scroll saw from bottom up. This little thumb screw right here holds the blade in. Same thing with this one. This holds the top in, this holds the bottom in. If you break those loose, you're able to change the blade out. Okay, next up is the tensioner. This is the tensioner. This holds your piece down as you're working on it. You're able to move around and cut, and then if you let go, it won't flop around too bad. This should hold it down. Next up is the guide block system. So this thing spins here by breaking this bolt loose, and it'll hold your blade in place. You don't want it extremely tight. You just want it tight enough to hold it, but a little bit of play, probably a few thousandths. And then this is the bearing system. This is adjustable right here. By breaking this bolt loose, it'll slide in and out. And then for your tensioner, this is the adjustment system back here. It'll swivel and kick too, if you need it to. All right, this is the air system here. This will keep your piece clean as you're working on it. So this works through here by running a little hose. It goes up and down into here, and from the motor, it's creating a little bit of a turbine to blow air out of this. Okay, next up is this system. This is another guide system here. You break this loose, you're able to adjust the height, then you can put a thicker piece in here. Same thing here. If you want the rod to be choked up a little bit more, you break this bolt loose and you can choke it up right here, up or down. You can also move this option over to here. And there's an option to put a set screw in there for that. As far as the height goes of the blade, if you get a longer blade, you can adjust it here. I have mine set at 13, which is just right for a 5.5 blade. So this is a little table I use So 20.5 is for a 7-inch blade, okay? 16.5 is for a 6-inch blade. I have a 5.5. I have it set to 13, which seems about right. I feel pretty good with it. And then, of course, I have my retirement light. I also have a step pulley system in here that'll allow me to adjust the speeds. The reason you want a scroll saw and a bandsaw is because a scroll saw is going to allow you to do cuts like this. You're going to have to drill it with the drill press though. With the drill press, you'll take a bit big enough as the blade and you'll drill through it and you'll feed the blade through the hole and hook it up to the scroll saw. Then you're able to cut the inside out. Okay, the other thing you can do with the drill press is hook a flap disc up to it, which will help with sanding too. So make sure you got a drill press. If not, at least a drill. That way you can at least drill that hole and get ready for that blade. All right. And of course you're going to need a bandsaw. This one's set up for scroll sawing. It's got a 14 TPI 1/8-inch blade on it, made by Timberwolf. I like Timberwolf blades the most. Second to that, I would say Starrett or a Carter blade. And if you got a second bandsaw, I would put a mill blade on it. That way you can rip your own wood and create your own planks. You're also going to want to get a good headlamp. This is an S1R Baton II made by Olight. It's an incredible light. I can't recommend it enough. They also make the Baton 4. I'll tag both down below in the description. I like to get 2 or 3 of them. That way when I'm charging one, I can have the other one available. Now let's go check out my new favorite machine. This is my 1x42 Delta sander. This is my 1x30 behind me. And then I've also got a 12-inch right there. What makes this one so special though is this one will sand the inside of a cut, which is very impressive. What you have to do is take a belt from the belt sander and score it with a razor blade and then rip it down the line. It'll come off in a vertical movement very smoothly. And then when you get done, you put it on the belt sander and you hone it with a little stone so that way everything's nice and flat on the side. What you do is you take this, you loop it through this way. Okay, you get it around this wheel. Bring this down, lock that in, and then bring this in front of that wheel. And you got yourself an inside diameter sander. Beautiful. If you can afford a spindle sander, buy one. You'll thank yourself later. If the face plate isn't flush, make sure you line it with some tape and then cut it off flush. I like to use scissors. Once you get it flush, you're able to come in and sand and your piece won't get caught on it. You're gonna need these two. But don't forget that joiner. That's going to help you bond the wood together. You're going to want router bits. This is a 90, 60 degree, 20 degree, and 15 degree. They're called profile bits. They allow you to plunge the wood and leave a nice clean line. And then don't forget, you're going to need a router plate. This guy's really nice. It's got 2 knobs on it. It's made by makeawoodsign.com. Really good guy, good family. Nice to have good products from America too. So check them out. And of course, get yourself lots of router bits. When you need them, you're going to need them really badly. You got rabbiting bits, roundovers, cone shapes, chamfers, all kinds of different ones, dovetail. Like I said, when you're ready for these, you're going to want them. These are miter springs. This is the tool it comes with. It's made by this company. I'll put the link in the description. So make sure this is out of the way. Come in. And what you do is you grab it. And now I have it. course, glue it. This one's not glued, but look how it's holding it. Pretty solid. Or you can make a 90-degree reference on some MDF. Put a wing nut, nice straight piece here and another one right here, and sandwich it. And then you take these wedges and you wedge your miters together. It'll create a 4-sided squeeze, just like putting parallel clamps or a ratchet strap. So I did this in the maker sign. You can see it tagged up here in the corner. I'll put it in the description too. As for the materials, you're going to want a lot of different materials. You're going to want to slowly build that up. One thing I'm going to use a lot of is Walrus oil. I'm going to use the paste wax, and also I'm going to use the Tung oil, which is up here. You can get it in a big bottle. You can get a pump, and that helps. You also got 2P10. I'm going to use a lot of 2P10 and Activator. 2P10 is a super glue. You can keep it in the fridge. I keep it inside. Keeps it good. As far as wood glue, I'm going to use Titebond 1 or Titebond 2 or this Titebond 2 dark walnut. I don't really like Titebond 3. It gets a hard candy shell, and when it absorbs heat, it can crack. So just keep that in mind. If your sign's going to be in the sun or anything like that, going in and out of weather, it could crack. So I like Titebond 2. It has a little bit more flexibility to it. Of course, my polyurethanes, many different polyurethanes, shellac for quick finishes, and my favorite paint is Montana Gold. It's typically going to be the paint we're going to try to use, but if not, we'll find some Rust-Oleum or something like that. And then you're going to want to get yourself some 90, but mostly a bunch of 77. This is what you're going to use to stick the paper to your cutouts as you're cutting out the templates. Let's talk about the software and the fonts, okay? So for the software, I'll be using Affinity Designer 2. It is a great program. It is subscription free. There's no subscriptions with it, just like Adobe. Adobe has subscriptions. If you're on Adobe, that's fine. You can follow along. You can create at your own pace. You're just going to have to get tutorials somewhere else. I will be tutorialing on Affinity Designer 2. If you have questions or anything, I'm willing to answer them in the comments on it. There's a lot of great places I've learned from. I'm not perfect. I will be learning as we go. This is the whole point of this series, is I want to drive my skills with the software. The other thing is fonts. Font licensing is very tricky. Make sure you read all your license. Don't just take my word for it here. Go through everything. Make sure you're in a good legal place with everything you're doing. Fonts are protected under desktop license to use and sell and make products with through myfont.com. Other websites I don't know, but through myfont.com, they're protected. If you are interested in doing other things with your font, like using them for web-based stuff like that, make sure you read the license and understand what to do with it. Just like here on YouTube, I have to make sure I'm protected with any of the fonts I use. So in the beginning, we're going to pick some basic fonts to use. I'm probably going to go with some of Massimo Vanelli's favorite fonts. We'll be using fonts like Helvetica, Futura, Garamond, Times New Roman, Century, and Bodini. These were some of Massimo Vanelli's favorite fonts. I may sprinkle in some other ones, but we're going to keep it real basic. The idea is I want you to learn kerning and stuff like that, just placing the text. If we just stick to the same text and don't worry about what font we got to do, we're going to learn so much more about all the other stuff. We're trying to go through graphic design through this too. I'm not a graphic designer, but I do want to learn more about it, so we're going to learn together. I want to say thank you to anyone who made it to the end. I appreciate it a lot. Thank you. I'm looking forward to doing this series, looking forward to doing some sign making and sharing all the tricks that I figure out with you guys and growing with you. Like I said, I put some links down below. If you want to use them, they'll help me out. allow us to do some other things with the channel. Everything that gets invested gets reinvested. So I make sure I reinvest it and let everyone know what happens with it. So thank you. And if you want to support me in some other ways, there's some other links down there at the very bottom. So thank you. Love and respect. See you soon.